Warning! The following video contains a high amount of hat-wearing gamers' opinion. It may be different to your own. This is life. Hello everyone and welcome to Mario & Luigi RPG, a series talk. In these 5 videos, I'll be looking at each Mario & Luigi RPG game in depth. This includes Superstar Saga, Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story, Dream Team Bros, and Paper Jam Bros. And I live in Australia, where Bros is at the end of the last 2 titles, so deal with it. I want to spend some time looking at this series because these games don't really have a history of being noticed by a lot of people, and it's evident in the sales figures. That said, I would recommend playing these games before watching these videos if possible, as I'm going to be going in depth and spoiling everything in all 5 games. So let's have a series talk. Kicking off the series, we have Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, which came out in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance. As you would expect, since it's a Mario game, it stars Mario, but it also stars his younger brother Luigi. This is the first Mario game that allows you to play as both Mario and Luigi at the same time, while they have largely different roles in the game. But how well did that play out? Was it a glorious game filled with happiness and rainbow sunshines? Or was it an absolute train wreck on a one-way path to disaster? I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this is Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. The game starts out at Peach's castle, where she is expecting visitors from a neighbouring land known as the Beanbean Kingdom. But things go sour quick when the visitor turns out to be a villain named Chakola and her lackey Fawful in disguise. They aim to steal Peach's voice and get out quickly, which they did successfully. Up to this point, most Mario games would start out with Bowser kidnapping Peach, and that becoming the subject of focus in the game. It even happened in the most recent Mario RPG at the time. The different plot is bound to throw people off due to its unfamiliarity, but more is the fact that you don't know what actually happened right off the bat. All you know is that someone came up, they sprayed some gas in Peach's face, she faints and they run. Since you don't know, it gives you a reason to get moving and find out what happened. A Toad retrieves Mario and Luigi at their house who didn't turn up to the event of expected visitors for some reason, and upon their arrival, Bowser's already there who starts a fight with Mario. The fight contains a few battle tutorials on the basics of attacking and defending, which are nicely done, and the fact that they're optional is good for experienced players. The fight is also impossible to lose, which is good because the game hasn't really given you a chance to practice fighting, and so punishing you in such a way right at the start can be really discouraging. After the fight, the Toads inform Mario, Luigi and Bowser that the Goodwill Ambassador from the Beanbean Kingdom stole Peach's voice. Bowser then decides to get the voice back so he can kidnap Peach and recruits Mario in his mission. After this, full control is given to you in Toad Town Square, which introduces some of the game's basic mechanics such as jumping, question blocks, interacting with NPCs, a little exploration, action icons and saving, and all of this is done in a nice and friendly looking environment. You even get teased on the names of some of the places you'll be visiting in the Beanbean Kingdom if you choose to talk to a certain Toad, which could generate interest in some of the places. One important thing to point out is that right now, Luigi has no intention of going to the Beanbean Kingdom at all. He's there to see Mario board the Koopa Cruiser and say goodbye, but right after Mario gets on, Bowser ends up forcing Luigi into coming to the Beanbean Kingdom as well. Since Luigi was less than keen to go, this highlights the absurdity of having Luigi on the adventure alongside Mario while performing a different role. And it's taken even one step further by having neither Bowser nor any of his minions remember Luigi's name. Once on the Koopa Cruiser, Mario and Luigi are together, so you're taught how to control them together. The A button controls the bro on the front, the B button for the bro on the back, and the start button swaps them. So start swaps the bros, and select opens the suitcase, which is essentially pause. I know this is super nitpicky, but wouldn't it make more sense if they were the other way around? Wouldn't that make more sense? This format doesn't make sense, I don't get. Moving on, Mario and Luigi have their pictures taken for passport photos where you can do poses. It's a nice little feature. After that, some Koopa Troopers put you through some battle tutorials for fighting as a pair, which cover dodging as Luigi, counterattacks and attacking an enemy to initiate battle, followed by a warning for enemies that may attack you to start a battle themselves, which are all fine the way they are. Shortly after getting up on deck, Mario, Luigi and Bowser meet Chakola and Fawful in full, which leads to a short battle against Fawful. During this battle, Bowser offers a very important tutorial which teaches you to pick up certain hints and attacks that guide you in how to defend accordingly by pointing out the colour of the text. Superstar Saga's battles work on a genius yet simple principle of pressing the A button for Mario and the B button for Luigi. This simple idea allows battles to go in so many clever directions. Since you can dodge attacks for both of them at the same time, you need to look out for clues to see which brother is being attacked, and most of the time it's fairly obvious, like a target, an approach, or hand signals. There are a few slightly more vague hints like hammer throws, but they're few and far between. The result of this is the ability to avoid all attacks and the technical possibility of taking 0 damage in the entire game. It's appropriately difficult, and personally I've never done it myself. This is a massive standout from Final Fantasy, Pokemon, and even other Mario RPGs at the time. Now on the other side of battles, we have attacking. Mario RPGs have had a history of using action commands where you're required to press a button at the right time to deal extra damage. Action commands are a way of allowing attacks to do more damage without relying on luck to decide. It does this by rewarding you for timing the commands correctly and punishing you for making mistakes. They start off simple with the solo jump, but when the bros moves are added, they become a little more complicated but still maintain the principle of pressing the A button for Mario and the B button for Luigi. As you win battles, you will also gain experience points which lead to level ups. I've never had a problem with how the experience points or the stat increases are paced with each level up, and I appreciate the bonus number giving you a little control over how Mario and Luigi grow throughout the game. When Forful loses, he destroys the cruiser and everyone falls to the Stardust fields. Mario and Luigi venture across the border and don't have their passports checked. Instead, we have the border jump minigame, which can trick you out but is still a fun challenge on the harder stages, although I do find the rules kind of weird. So you can't miss 3 times on one bro, but you can miss twice for each of them, meaning 4 misses. Right. However, I do love how the first and easier stage is required and all subsequent ones are optional. Those who enjoy it can keep playing. Now that you've beaten it, you're on the Beanbean side of the Stardust fields. What I've always loved about this area is the weirdness of it. The first time you're in the Beanbean Kingdom is a rather unusual environment which emphasizes that you're in a different place. After walking around the Stardust fields you can find Bowser who landed in a cannon. Another guy named Tolstar comes in and offers to release him for money. Your mushroom coins are rejected, so he says to go and gather 100 Beanbean coins around the area. While exploring, you'll run into the Starshade Bros, who teach you the high jump and spin jump that fit well into Mario themed moves. They also teach you how to use them in battle. The ability to use these kinds of moves in battle continues throughout the game, and gives them all a greater purpose, in a similar fashion to how, in the main series, Mario would jump to cross a gap and jump to stomp a Goomba. Here it works in a similar fashion to the point where you are literally using a spin jump to take down an enemy. After gaining 100 coins, Tolstar becomes the first major boss. It's simple and eases you into the idea that sometimes bosses attack twice when you've taken a good chunk of health off, and attacks which require staying put as opposed to jumping. Once beaten, the green Starshade Bro comes and fires Bowser out of the cannon. Mario and Luigi then head over to the Whoo village, but they're greeted by guards who are looking for someone named Prince Peasley. Tolstar steps in and bails them out, and the bros can explore the village. In this, some of the villagers also talk about Prince Peasley being missing, and not only that, but a missing pterodactyl named Blablanodon, making the characters sound important. Mario and Luigi also see another guard confronting Forful. This event leads to the path down the mountain being blocked off, hinting towards hammers. With a little more exploring, you meet Sledge and Mallet, the Hammerhead Bros. Not Hammer Bros, Hammerhead Bros. They send you up Whoo Mountain to find Whoo blocks. Climbing the mountain is further testing your abilities with the high and spin jumps, more so the spin, and also introduces water fountains, provided you didn't explore the village enough to find them there. So you use the fountains to take in the water, and then you spit the water at the dudes with the fire, and then that causes a whirlwind to come out of the mouth of the head randomly sitting on the wall. Yep, definitely makes sense. Okay, so in all seriousness, I did always find that confusing, but even more confusing was how they were introduced. I always found it off-putting where the first fountain you see isn't working, and the first one you use is a different one. I think if the first fountain you see was both flowing and the first one you use, it would have a better flow. Continuing up, spin jumps are further tested with a minigame led by a stone named Whoo Ross, followed by battling it. This fight introduces a moving attack that slides past both bros, training you to manage both Mario and Luigi in battle at the same time, but more interestingly, it has the first boss puzzle. This is fine, but it's actually a more complicated one than most others are in the game due to having to hit both pillars in a specific order in all situations. No other boss in the game gets this complicated because they're all usually disable something else and attack the main target. I don't think there's anything wrong with the puzzle, it just seems so out of place this early in the game. That being said, it is a little made up for in how easy Hoo Ross is to beat. A few more spin and high jump tests later, and you're at the top. Once there, you can look through a telescope and have every area in the game teased to you to help build a little suspense for what's to come, and as a little Easter egg, you can see Peach's castle in the background on the right. In the center of the top, Mario and Luigi kick a Hoo block, waking up a sleeping Bulbanodon who's nursing an egg containing a modified Prince Peasley. That came together nicely. The egg hatches, revealing a dragon named Drago-Ho-Ho, which sends the Hoo block falling, Bulbanodon flying, and fights the bros. As a boss, Drago-Ho-Ho is vulnerable at all times, but you can destroy a stone for easier defense, which I believe is a good difficulty curve from Tolstar, and far better than the one shown by Hoo Ross. Once defeated, Drago-Ho-Ho turns back into Prince Peasley, and Bulbanodon returns. Prince Peasley befriends Mario and Luigi by leaving them a rose to display worthiness. Bulbanodon returns Mario and Luigi to the Hoo village, and not the base of the mountain, which is where they want to go, or literally anywhere else in the kingdom. But of course they need to get hammers from Sledge and Mallet since the Hoo block conveniently landed in their house. It is cool that that happened, although I kind of wish that Mario and Luigi picked up the block themselves and carried it to Sledge and Mallet, rather than being able to receive the hammers by dumb luck. It would have created a stronger sense of earning them. Nevertheless, they make you the heads of the hammers from the blocks, and the wooden handles, well, they just come out of nowhere. They also teach you to switch to hammers using the R button. This tutorial fully reveals Superstar Saga's brilliant design philosophy. The R button for switching solo moves, and the L button for switching bros moves, which was shown in the Stardust fields, and the game runs with this all the way to the end. Now that Mario and Luigi can shatter the rock, they head down the mountain with several more rocks to break, including a burning one. Next up, you go through the minecart minigame. It can be quite challenging if you lose concentration for a second, and the controls can be tricky to work until you get used to it. To complement this, the first stage has a battery available before any jewels come up to help you ease into them. When you're out, you have a battle tutorial on hammers. The tutorial works, but it does something inconsistent. Out of 5 battle tutorials in the game so far, 2 of them are skippable, 1 of them is fully forced, and the other 2 offers skipping, but still force them anyway. All tutorials should be skippable for the sake of experienced players, and it's particularly frustrating when seemingly given the option and still being forced to do it. Moving on, you come to Beanbean Outskirts, which is basically this game's version of Hyrule Field, featuring spiked enemies for good hammer practice. In the centre of the outskirts is the wrecked Beanbean Castle town, where most places are closed off with very little to do. Right next to it is Beanbean Castle itself, under heavy guard because of the attack. The bros only make it in because of Peasley's rose, and once inside they can't really go anywhere due to closed doors and guards blocking passages. Then Chuckola, disguised as a far more convincing Lady Lima, enters and sends them down to the basement and tells them to fix the plumbing as proof of who they are. I've always loved the basement segment because it starts simple and builds. Hammering in the plugs for a simple start, spinning the wheel to add something a little different, and despite ending with what is essentially a guessing game, it still keeps the initial concept in mind and carries it through to the end. Following this, you rescue the real Lady Lima and some other Beanbean officials as well. You then soon discover that Chuckola had been present in the castle chasing this object called the Beanstar. You don't know anything about the Beanstar at this point, but given the knowledge of its high security in the land's main castle, it must be pretty important. Mario and Luigi then head up to the top to meet the next boss, Infected Queen Bean. From the start, Queen Bean can't be attacked, but disabling her arms will make her vulnerable until they regenerate. While her arms are down, she'll attack you with bean objects, and should you land on them, they'll become beanies, an enemy from Whoo Mountain, which adds another layer of depth to the battle. And despite what I said earlier about her being invulnerable with the arms up, crafty players are rewarded with a faster way of beating her. I won't reveal it just to give you a chance to figure it out if you haven't already. When you've beaten her, Lady Lima enters and sees Queen Bean in her current state. Mario and Luigi volunteer to help and Lady Lima responds positively. Up to this point in the game, there's been an ongoing sense of hostility from the Beanbean Kingdom, generated by the Toad saying the Goodwill Ambassador stole Peach's voice, Tolstar's line, "Outsiders be gone," the guard ambush in Whoo Village, the castle under heavy guard, and fake Lady Lima telling Mario and Luigi to prove themselves as plumbers. Now there's a sense of welcome, grace and relief knowing that the residents are really your friends, and while I do recognise the Starshade Bros, Peasley, the Hammerhead Bros, Blablanadon and the Hoo villagers, to me those were always overpowered by the hostility. In order to rescue Queen Bean, Mario and Luigi head off to the Chucklebean Woods to find the Chakola Reserve, but on the way out of the castle you're met by someone who gives Mario a badge. Badges, which go with pants, alter your stats among other things during battle. I'm impressed by the setup that badges affect offensive stats, while pants affect defensive stats, meaning that they work together differently, and some other perks, such as effectively jumping on spiked enemies, are very beneficial. Right after this, Luigi feels left out, and he wants a badge too. He's immediately rejected for comedy's sake, but the joke also cleverly reveals that you can buy badges in stores. On the way to the woods, you go through Chateau de Chucklebean, whilst here, Mario and Luigi walk through an easy barrel maze if you figure out the trick to the walls, a balance which I like. This maze reveals the Shadow Thief Popple sneaking up on Mario. The bros follow Popple into the next room and meet his accomplice Rookie, who is Bowser with amnesia. In a failed attempt to jog Bowser's memory, the pairs fight. What I love about this battle is that if you attack Popple, Bowser will retaliate with hammers regardless of whose turn it is, making it harder, and if you take down Bowser first, Popple will run away, meaning fewer experience points. One is harder and more rewarding, whilst the other is easier and less rewarding, and you can pick your own path through it. During this fight, Bowser will also remember that he can breathe fire as a result of seeing the bros, which adds to the story as Bowser's memory returns. In the next room, Mario and Luigi meet Cork, the master of the chateau, and his brother Cask, who go on to teach them the bros' hammer moves. The tutorial is as simple as all the previous ones, and the moves go very well with hammers, one of them even being a staple to the series. They're referred either as Mouse and Mole or Mini Mario and Luigi Dunk, but the game doesn't explicitly specify. Due to this, I'll be referring to them by the latter. The game makes sure you've learnt them by fetching the goblets, and in this test, the game reveals that you can manually separate Mario and Luigi through these moves, which is very important in the game, and I love that it's introduced in gameplay and not tutorial. And of course you gain 2 new bros moves in battle to correspond with them, and the way they begin lines up with what you do in the field. These are also my favourite bros moves because of their high attack power and don't feel like they take forever to perform. And if you're wondering how knockback fits into that, stick around, I'll get to it. Now it's off to the woods. The Chucklebean Woods focuses mostly on your abilities to perform Hammer Bros moves by introducing dunking under barrels and using them to reach more places. There's a segment of gathering bean fruit initiated by the Chuckle route, and each one can be collected in any order, allowing a more diverse approach, and in this one, there's a mini boss fight against a Wiggler. You can calm it down by attacking each segment once, and then 1 or 2 bros moves will kill it. What is with this game and weak mini-bosses with complicated puzzles? On the way to the Wiggler, Mario and Luigi will meet Chuckle Route's granddaughter, who will introduce you to digging for beans. This serves as a mild introduction to beans, but since you don't know what to do with them yet, I'll talk about them later. Although it becomes a little tedious to dig out of the ground for each bean you find. Once past Chuckle Route, you can go up to the tree at the end of the woods where the Chakola Reserve is, and its brewer Bubbles telling jokes to the drink. If you paid attention in the chateau, it displays the brewing process for Chakola Cola, and telling it jokes is the last stage. Bubbles reveals that he's been telling it jokes for 1,000 years, which strengthen the drink heavily. As a precursor to the upcoming fight, Popple and Bowser are trapped in barrels, warning them about the drink, making it a big deal, and speaking of fighting, you have to fight it. The Chakola Reserve has a shield which renders it immune to hammer-based attacks, but once you destroy it, it's gone for good, and the reserve is fully vulnerable. My only problem with this boss is that I find its bubble attack tricky to time. Is it just me or do others have that problem too? Apart from that, I like this boss, especially when Bubbles sometimes comes in, tells a joke and heals it a little, a nice complimentary touch. After the fight, Bubbles sends Mario, Luigi and the Chakola Reserve down to a cave below. Mario lands in the barrel and Luigi lands a little further up, so now you have to navigate the cave as Luigi by himself. Controlling Luigi on his own is really what this game does best to separate it from other Mario games. Mario is out of action and Luigi must step up, which is significant development over his resistance from going to the Beanbean Kingdom in the beginning. To add to this, battle stakes are up. Usually if one bro falls, the other can revive, but now it's one death and that's it. Now, as much as I love this, there is one small downside to the control. Outside of battle you use the A button and inside you use the B button, and it takes a bit of conscious effort to remember to switch buttons. I personally wouldn't mind using the A button for Luigi in battles on his own, even though it's a little inconsistent. When you find Mario, it's back to Beanbean Castle and curing Queen Bean. Now that Queen Bean is restored, Mario and Luigi's relationship with the Beanbean officials is fully intact. As a result, you receive what is likely confidential information on Chuckola's whereabouts, and you hear about what the Beanstar is and can do, which explains why Peach's voice was stolen from the beginning. Prince Peasley testifies to Chucklebean and Fawful going into the Whoo University, and Mario and Luigi follow. By the way, the castle town is restored, which helps cure the hostile atmosphere. When they arrived at the University, it's clear that Chucklebean and Fawful are around since a lot of professors are evacuating after some were turned into enemies. The University itself is a more diverse area and it's puzzle solving by having a little bit of everything learned up to this point. I've always loved creating the sunlight path due to its massive sense of progress, and the things you do to extend it are also enjoyable themselves. Mario has his own segment which may not have as much symbolic value as Luigi's, but I do appreciate it so that Mario can make up for the experience points that Luigi got on his own. You're also introduced to shooting little robots with water in order to complete an electric current, although on the downside you're introduced to this minigame. And it sucks. Once the path is extended, you confront Chucklebean, whose plan had just failed as the Beanstar went berserk after hearing Peach's voice. Chucklebean then challenges Mario and Luigi to a battle in a good fight, with a small downside. The downside is that she clones herself twice and there's no reliable way to tell who's fake until she has another turn. However, it is a good chance to heal up if you need it, so there is a silver lining. When you beat her, Fawful sucks Chucklebean up into his headgear right before Peasley comes and throws them out of the University. Mario and Luigi are fast to explain the Beanstar's reaction to Peach's voice, followed by him alluding to a plot twist. Suspicious indeed. Mario and Luigi go down to the basement to find the fallen Beanstar. The only thing that's really down here is testing you on shooting mice in more complicated ways. When you find the Beanstar, Popple and Bowser are there too and challenge you once again for the Beanstar. It's more or less the same, but this time they do their own bros move if you give Bowser enough damage without defeating Popple. Once beaten, a peach bot falls down and the Beanstar goes berserk again. All four of them proceed to grab the star before it flies out of the building. Popple, Luigi and Mario fall first, followed by Bowser recovering his memory and then falls himself. The Beanstar then breaks up into 4 pieces and is scattered across the kingdom. Mario and Luigi wake up on a desert island called the Oho Oasis, where they learn the hand powers. Fire for Mario and thunder for Luigi, and I'll try and keep the itch of knowing what thunder actually is to myself. What I love is that the move is electricity and thunder is a noise. There, I said it. Sorry. Let's get back on track. As I was saying, what I love is that you learn these moves in ancient looking temples, making their abilities look incredibly special and something to be treasured. What's confusing is the first area you use them in, the ocean seabed. Fire won't last long and thunder will kill them. I know games don't have to follow all the laws of physics, but it's inconsistent to use them underwater and apply real-world science in both scenarios to solve puzzles at other times in the game. Despite this, I like the design of the area, changing movement a little and keeping you on your toes for navigating the spiked areas. Right before you return to the mainland, you're treated to a cutscene showing Chuckola's soul going into Bowser's body, setting up a major plot event for later on. When you're out of the pipe, Prince Peasley comes by and directs Mario and Luigi to the airport as Peach is coming. Once there, Mario and Luigi need to clear the runway of piranha plants so the plane can land. The idea is to use a mix of water and thunder to kill them. A nice use of Luigi's abilities, and unlike other areas, it actually works here. When you've taken down all 5, the Mama Piranha appears and you fight her. This introduces fire and thunder immune enemies in a very clear way. Mario and Luigi return to Beanbean Castle where they meet up with Peach, and not at the airport because that's where they are where the plane lands, but who cares, it's a video game. Peach then surprises the bros by speaking in words and not explosives. Then Toadsworth and Prince Peasley explain that Peach's voice was never stolen, which is why the Beanstar reacted so negatively to her voice. Following this, Prince Peasley sets off to find the Beanstar pieces while Mario and Luigi relax and look around with Peach. After seeing her, she expresses interest in the mushroom immigration community Little Fungi Town, but to get there they have to pass through the wasteland Teehee Valley, which require the super hammers. At any time from when the bros return from the Oho Oasis up to this point, super hammers are available, but getting them might be a chore. You could go all the way up to Teehee Valley's entrance and discover you need them, so you go all the way back to Whoo Village hoping that the Hammerhead bros could help you out, only to find out they're not there. I don't actually know how to figure out where they are. That being said, you could easily find it after a little elementary exploring with the hand powers right by the entrance to Teehee Valley. I do prefer this location being much closer to Beanbean Castle than the old one, but the path before it just seems long and unnecessary. When you go inside, you meet them, they upgrade your hammers, and you can unlock a new bros move in the game that tests your luck. I'm usually annoyed at a game of luck, but since it isn't required for completion, it's not the worst thing, just hope that you don't run out of money. Once inside Teehee Valley, you find Peach and Toadsworth ready for an escort mission. Given the nature of this part, it starts off simple and builds as you go. The escort mission itself mainly results in slowly doing various puzzles which build lightly on previous ones and fighting every enemy you see to prevent Peach from being kidnapped by them. All these things result in a fairly long area despite its small size. This isn't an area I particularly look forward to playing, but it's nice to see things shaken up a little, and I also really do enjoy the music here. At the end of the valley you fight the boss Chuckle, who can keep you for ages if you attack the jaw, but is an absolute joke if you attack the top of the head. Beating it opens up Little Fungi Town, and once you're there, Peach goes off to the Mushroom Embassy while Mario and Luigi have a look around. If you follow Peach to the embassy, she will direct you to the arcade where Mario and Luigi can play a fun minigame. It's simple, easily explained, and Gino! Getting a high score will win you the Invincible Shroom, which poisons Mario, leaving it up to Luigi to head out to the Guffaw ruins to save him. The problem with the ruins is that it's filled with deadly beasts which scare Luigi straight. Peach convinces Luigi to go, but in Luigi's frightened state you can't use your abilities, not even your jump. The area is cleverly designed to lead you to a Magic Koopa who brainwashes Luigi into convincing him that he's Mario. This spikes bravery into Luigi, giving him the mojo he needs to go to the Guffaw ruins. In the previous Luigi segment, he only had to get Mario out of a barrel, and now he has to save Mario's life while risking his own. Guffaw ruins itself is very straightforward, mostly jumping and time challenges. I always enjoyed the list puzzle, and it finishes off with a time challenge against what is essentially the boss. You pick up Mario's cure, the Krabby Grass, and take a pipe straight back to Little Fungi Town. That was convenient. Right before Luigi makes it back to Mario, he encounters another Peach kidnapping. He presumes the felon to be Bowser, but instead reveals themselves to be Bowletta, and I'm gonna let Forful explain this one. Cackletta's power has poured into this Koopa who is king. The body is of the Bowser, but the mind is all of the great Cackletta. After their escape, Luigi promptly cures Mario, and they return to Beanbean Castle. At the castle, Bowletta sends a message to everyone asking for the Beanstar pieces. Prince Peasley is able to mark their locations on your map, and Toadsworth directs you to the one in Teehee Valley, fittingly because the other three are out of access at this point. The first one is located on the SS Chakola, but skeletons from the ship pinch it first and you have to chase after them. Inside the ship you must play a minigame which is available only after talking to every necessary character. The barrel game hosted by Dry Donkey Kong is a fun little puzzle game, although I've always felt a stiff vibe from it. Something robotic about the way Mario and Luigi move. I don't know, am I just weird? When you win this game, Mario and Luigi have access to the storage area but have to do something more to receive the piece, which is to get the bloat off the wall. However, by doing that, a pile of sand pours in which loosens up the back of the ship and leads it moving forward into the sea for a few seconds, followed by its quick demise. And can I just mention that when a ship hits something in the bow causing it to sink, it sinks in the bow first, not the stern first. Enough ramblings. Mario and Luigi come out of the ship's wound along with a pile of sand preventing re-entry into the ship, which I was always kind of sad about, that you can't go back in. Nevertheless, the Beanstar piece floats away and continues to do so in the next screen. I always found this whole segment kind of frustrating because you continually get closer to the piece and it just keeps falling away from your hands just as you approach it. I would have much preferred staying with and developing the ship. On the other hand though, it does expand the game a little more rather than just being go to an area, fight a boss, rinse and repeat. Anyway, you follow the Beanstar piece down to the Oho Lagoon where you learn the bros hand powers, provided you have 200 coins. This is where the moves start getting kind of weird. The dash isn't actually too bad, it's simply for fast movement and knocking things down, but the sidestep is what's weird. You have the ability to move backwards and sideways without moving Mario and Luigi relative to each other, and yes, the description did have to be that drawn out. When both moves are applied to battle, they're not adaptations of what you do in the field to any degree, even though I still like both of their attacking moves in their own right, and in Thunder Bro's case, I'd rather do this in the field than this in battle. The main problem with both moves is that they can get really gimmicky, and you can see it in the Oho Lagoon's design. Like these things for example. What are they doing here? They look incredibly out of place and were clearly put in as an excuse to use the bros hand powers. The other part that stood out to me as a gimmick was the time challenge, and it doesn't seem to fit in with the lagoon environment. I do recognise that you could make a similar case for the Chucklebean Woods being gimmicky based on the bros hammer moves, but the moves aren't gimmicky. They go well with hammers, and so therefore I never thought the woods were gimmicky. The boss of the lagoon, Hermie III, is vulnerable unless he goes into a shell, which is flammable, and while that seems cool, the boss is too easy to worry about that mechanic. He also gets annoyed at you when you attack him in the face, but who cares, his retaliation is super easy to dodge. Beating him will give you the first Beanstar piece, and having the bros hand powers opens up access to the other 3, which are all relatively short missions doable in any order. The Yoshi Theatre brings the quest for the bean fruit, forcing you to explore the Beanbean outskirts to a small degree. I really do like that the game makes you do this, as you can even discover secrets within it that you may not have noticed already, and you can even find all but one of the bean fruit without initiating the mission to begin with. The one bean fruit left behind is eaten by a piranha plant and must be fought for only by Luigi. This little venture by Luigi alone isn't as dramatic as the Guffaw ruins, but it's still worth making a note of. The battle, on the other hand, is so long. The fact that you can't use bros moves, have only one turn, and the length of its attacks really drag out the battle. Beating it will grant the bean fruit and a minor meeting with Prince Peasley, where Luigi cleverly uses one of the moves he's learnt to grow Prince Peasley to normal size like he does with Mario. That was a nice touch I always liked. Bean fruit leads to neon eggs and a completed sign. Oh, by the way, there are Yoshis in this game, and that's awesome. Next we have a trip back to Chucklebean Woods where we play a stupid minigame for a Winkle card. This minigame is stupid because it's so easy a blind person can win. To make up for this, we encounter Popple on his own trying to get the Beanstar piece. This meeting continues Mario and Luigi's relationship with him and displays Popple in true nature. Someone on his own, not really caring for teammates. The only major difference in the battle is the sack and... What is that? Why is that happening? The coins are bouncing and I'm collecting them? What? That's messed up. Moving on, we have the splat game, which can throw you off when you start because the bombs stop moving when you swing the hammer, but you would likely learn how to manage it after one swing, and it does make the game easier. I think they could have combined each pattern in a way as well as a group of 3. That said, if they had the idea, it may not have made it in due to development time, which is understandable since this is a really small part of the game. Of course, when I played this as a kid, I knew I wanted to make every possible combination, and as a side quest, they reward you for doing so, which means I was happy. That said, if I wasn't, I would still know it as a good inclusion for those who do enjoy it. Now speaking of side quests, let's look at them as well as some other minigames. The biggest side quest in the game is the Beanstar Cafe, which features Professor Egad from Luigi's Mansion, which is great, although I'm a little sad because this was originally going to feature a wide range of Nintendo cameos, Egad being one of them, that didn't make the cut. The quest itself involves using beans you find to make various drinks, but what doesn't make sense is that the one type of bean that is required the most is won through battles, which is fine, but it isn't received every time. It's the only bean won by chance, making this quest really tedious. One of my favourite side quests are the prize-giving Monty Moles you can find with exploration. It's sometimes as simple as returning to an earlier area with more moves or upgrades, but the ones I love are around the outskirts. A good chunk of throwbacks to Mario Bros on the NES, including a reference to 1-2's secret, and there's even a level with Luigi. Okay, enough of this. You got the Beanstar pieces, and so Bowletter calls you to Joke's End, Peasley brings you a fake Beanstar, Toadsworth brings you Peach's extra Jess, and Queen Bean says this, "But I can't show you this, or Tumblr will get very mad." Nevertheless, Joke's End is only accessible by surfing across the ocean, but in order to do that, you need Ultra Hammers, requiring you to visit the Hammerhead Bros again via that long path. With Ultra Hammers, you can obtain the second secret scroll for another new Bros move. I like the second secret scroll move, Cyclone Bros, but I find Swing Bros to be really hard to time, and so I avoid it. I do recognise its popular advanced move, but since I find Swing Bros tricky enough, I usually don't have the patience to unlock it. Speaking of which, this game has advanced commands for Bros moves, which essentially double the number of Bros moves you can perform. While I'm sure other people enjoy them, I don't, mostly because I find them excessively long to use and unlock. Despite that, I do actively pursue Knockback Bros Advanced because I use it as Luigi's main. I also said that I don't like to use moves that take a while, and Knockback Bros can take a while, but since you're constantly damaging your opponent, it adds more value to the time. Okay, you got your Ultra Hammers, and now you can surf. Surfing sounds exciting, but on its own, it's actually incredibly boring, and that's why the ocean is made interesting. You can break balloons for coins, go down whirlpools to the seabed and access areas you couldn't previously, and ride to places you've been before like the Oho Oasis and Goo Lagoon. And I like the surfing minigame. It's fairly simple, easy to understand, and challenges your ability to surf. The ocean takes good advantage of water concepts and makes exploring the ocean interesting. The ocean's northern edge takes you to Joke's End, and my goodness, this place is long and depressing. But I praise it because I wholeheartedly believe that's what it was trying to accomplish. Up until now, the game's world has been happy on all ends. Every area is named after a kind of laugh. They're filled with smiley faces and happy music and use bright colours, except a little bit for the Stardust fields. Joke's End juxtaposes the rest of the world with a bland look, sad music, sad faces, and a right to the point name. And while there are good ways to do this, I don't think Joke's End does. But that's almost entirely because of the music. This song is so bland and repetitive. In a game with some really nice music, Teehee Valley and the final boss, just to name a few of my favourites, this song is just so unpleasant. Joke's End's design is really long, but I don't hate it straight up because I do find it to be interesting. Its science makes no sense when it comes to spin jumping over boiled soup, but the rest is pretty solid, especially the split up section. But this minigame! I hate it so much! At the end, Jojora, the character keeping track of your progress throughout the area, meets you and invites a friend over. You can pick the friend, but they'll be the same sprite with a different name every time, and she's also the boss. She's not too difficult, she has 2 states, one immune to each hand power, but I find this move really hard to time my hammer swing against. Once passed, you can meet Fawful awaiting the Beanstar. Luigi offers the fake Beanstar, but Fawful sees through it, knocks Luigi over, and takes the real one. Mario then enters the scene and plucks out Peach's extra dress with a plan. That plan being Luigi's bravest move. Luigi disguises himself as Peach, then he and Mario tell Bowletta that the Peach in their hand is an imposter. Bowletta falls for the trick, drops the real Peach and takes Luigi. They bring him to the Koopa Cruiser where Luigi is found out pretty quickly. Not long after, Luigi gets away by walking through the wrecked Koopa Cruiser you see at the start, which is nice, rescues the Beanstar and parachutes down. This is an even further step up from the Guffaw ruins. Luigi is walking into the enemy's hands in Peach's place, which helps the Mushroom Kingdom, and rescues the Beanstar, which helps the Beanbean Kingdom. The stakes are high, and Luigi knew this. On his way down, Luigi gives the Beanstar to Prince Peasley and a bird ruins the parachute, causing him to crash land in Teehee Valley, appropriately giving Mario some screen time in order to rescue Luigi. It's not a very long mission. You go through a new area of Teehee Valley and head underground, but before you make it, Popple discovers Luigi and ties him up. Mario rescues Luigi with his fire hand power, and Popple turns up with his new rookie Birdo, who was seen earlier as the puppet standing in for Peach during the initial voice thievery. Although it's never explained how Birdo got their voice back, they just did. The fight itself is a little better than the previous Popple fight. Popple will now steal Luigi's hammer, restricting him from hammer attacks. Popple will still run if Birdo dies, and they won't retaliate if you attack Popple, which I thought was a really good idea when Bowser was the rookie, but here's just a little less dedication. And there's nothing special about Birdo, just attack them. Okay, I just want to jump in here and mention that I already know about the egg move, but I'm not talking about it because I don't find it to be very memorable. After this battle, Birdo sends Popple flying and leaves, allowing Mario and Luigi to exit and explaining the purpose of the pipe near the entrance to Teehee Valley. I don't know, was that just me or did it pique anyone else's interest? Also, at this point in the game, if you go to the area outside the Mushroom Embassy, you can discover that Popple got caught and is doing community service, a nice way to round out his contribution to the game. Mario and Luigi return to Castle Town and discover it in a state of wreck like it was at the beginning, but this time because Bowser's castle is found in the sky, destroying it. Sadly, the town stays like this for the rest of the game, which means that exploring the townspeople is permanently closed off. The Starbean side quest is still available if you haven't finished it, but the Beanstones and Beanling side quests are not available. Oh, that's right. I forgot about those during the side quest part. And that's because finding the Beanstones is tedious. The Beanlings aren't so much, but they're still not that memorable. When you go inside Beanbean Castle, Mario and Luigi volunteer to go up to Bowser's castle with Queen Bean's support. Peasley also volunteers against the Queen's preference, but still goes anyway. One Bulbanodon ride later and they arrive in the castle for the final bout. Bowser's castle brings back the 7 Koopalings, each with their own section of the castle and a fight. Each section tests you on something you've learnt from the game with nothing being left out, making it like the field's final boss. Even if it tests you on something you didn't like, it still complements the game. The Koopaling fights are fairly straightforward, and given that there are 7 of them, I don't think they all needed complicated puzzles. Lemmy and Wendy will clone themselves in a similar fashion to Chuckola, and this time there is no way to tell who's the real one, but since you have the standard Thunder Bros, it's not too bad. The bomb that kicks in can also raise tension. Despite my love of Bowser's castle in this game, I personally want to slap whoever thought Ludwig doing this was a good idea. I get that it's Bowser-like, but you kind of have to guess when he's coming up behind you, and I don't like that. It's weird and annoying and... With the castle all done, you have to fight Fawful one last time, and I've always considered this fight the hardest in the game. Most of the attacks I've found rather simple to avoid with a few exceptions, but they do stand out. This one especially. If you're not focusing, you could easily die from this, and you only have 2 turns to attack him when he comes out. That being said, a hard battle doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. If you want something challenging, then have it and enjoy. Personally, it's a good fight, it's just really hard. With Fawful's defeat, we have my favourite string of dialogue in the game. It represents Fawful's following attack, Peasley's striking return, and Fawful's damaging response. This is just a fraction of all the whimsical characters you can find in this game, helping to keep the dialogue conversations more engaging and less boring. I'm not going to look at every character, but I just want to point out that Fawful's lines are incredibly fun to read and say. As a result, he's one of my favourite video game villains of all time. Even if he's a lackey here, he's still up there with Grunty. The last thing to look at is Bowletta. The fight against Bowletta is just Bowletta. It has a few tricks but nothing too special. Take them down and Bowletta sucks you in to fight Chuckle's soul. This final boss is a masterpiece because it has everything relevant to fighting in the game. Starting off at 1 HP raises the stakes if you don't have enough speed in Mario or Luigi to overpower her. Attacks where Mario and Luigi must not jump to avoid getting hit make you concentrate on Chuckle's moves to avoid taking damage, especially the move where Chuckle freezes time. The Fawful Ghost throws back to the Fawful fight from the beginning by referencing the mouth movements in the headgear, and jumping and hammer defense test your skills on both. On the offensive side, this battle also follows the similar patterns laid out by earlier fights of destroying everything around the main target in order to expose it. The process of doing so also reflects the earlier bosses. The hands are immune to fire and thunder respectively, encouraging you to use the alternative one when it does deal damage. The head is also genius as it mirrors Popple and Rookie fights. If you attack it before you destroy the arms, it will retaliate, but there's also the temptation to destroy it first because it has the most devastating attacks. Overall, it works because of how much it complements the game. I just hate this attack. It's hard to follow and requires a bit of guesswork. The start of the ending requires Mario and Luigi to do one final barrel puzzle which takes time because of slowly walking upstairs, while moving even slower because of the barrel. After getting out, Bowser's castle explodes and the game does a fantastic 4th wall break with Bowser. It's pretty fortunate that the castle crashes into the ocean, and nowhere else. The Beanbean authorities say goodbye to their mushroom visitors and send Bowser with them. It's a nice ending, I just wish you could see the castle town rebuilt before the credits play. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga is a fantastic RPG because it gets the groundwork right. Its design philosophy works well, allowing a substantial number of moves quickly accessible with very few buttons in the field, and cleverly carries the A and B functions over to battles. The way the game does battle surpasses other RPGs up to this point at how much control over them is given to you. Luigi's role in the game works perfectly into the design philosophy that between the design philosophy itself and Luigi's presence, it's hard to know what was decided first. Regardless, sending Luigi on his own doesn't just build him up, but also breaks the normal game traditions of Luigi just being a palette swap for player 2 or someone else for the Mario Kart roster, but instead he's an actual character. Despite Luigi's Mansion coming out earlier, the game more or less tricks you into thinking that Mario is more important because his name appears first in the title, giving the impression that it's Mario's adventure with Luigi coming along for the ride, when in actual fact, Luigi has more time spent in the spotlight. The game's pacing works really well in how it doesn't just rinse and repeat the area boss fight structure the entire time, allowing a stronger flow between areas. On top of this, the game has so much nuance, an interesting world, whimsical characters, and well done gameplay, the downsides are few and far between. Superstar Saga gets its core design correct with possible exception to parts of the sidestep move, but all other downsides come in small packages here and there and are not directly reflecting the game's core. Superstar Saga's design starts out well and consistently keeps it that way. The question now is, as the series progressed, did it stay this way? Stay tuned for the next video as we find out. I'm Hat-Wearing Gamer, and this has been Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Stay tuned for after the end card for something special. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video on Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I know it took a super long time for it to come out, but it is finally here, and I'm really excited that it's here. I'm also excited for the next video in this series, which will be based on Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, the sequel to Superstar Saga. So I'd like to thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys then. Bye.
Partners in Time. I still remember that day when he wanted to do a Let's Play of Partners in Time, and I had to step in and save him before the Shroops could get him. Looks like I'm needed again. I hope you're welcoming, Scott.